The House of Commons, where this week the Environmental Committee, made up of politicians from all the major parties, published their latest report on climate change. The audit sets out an international action plan to tackle climate change after the Kyoto Protocol ends in 2012.
The action must be science-based, and I think the science is much more urgent than it was a decade ago. We're saying that developed countries should be cutting their carbon emissions by as much as 40% by 2020. That's a much earlier target than the 2050 that many people talk about. That even developing countries have a role to play, but the poorer parts of the world must be helped by the richer nations through new mechanisms to transfer money to tackle climate change, so it's a worldwide approach.
Making the UK a low-carbon economy will play a key role, placing the cost of flying on users, while accelerating investment in greener alternatives, such as domestic train networks, aims to help the UK reach its emission targets in a more effective and long-term way than buying emission credits.
Britain's influence in these negotiations will depend on showing that we're taking this issue seriously at home. And although we have set a lead in the past, that lead is faltering a bit now. There are too many areas where we're not achieving our targets. We need to be tougher in the field, for example, of electricity generation. We are concerned about developing coal-fired power stations here. How can we say to the Chinese, you mustn't do so if we're doing it here? We need to be much stronger on things like energy efficiency, on getting people to switch to low-carbon choices in transport. So we need policies that encourage people to choose the low-carbon cars, to travel by train rather than take an aeroplane, and so on. All sorts of areas in which Britain could give a stronger lead than it is now. If we do that, then we can play a bigger role in these international talks.
Rapidly growing economies like China and India must be allowed the opportunity to develop, but in a more carbon-efficient way. A key challenge will be finding the money to help these nations adapt to and mitigate climate change.
We recognise, obviously, poorer countries want to grow their economies so they enjoy the lifestyle that we take for granted. We must help them do that in a way that is environmentally friendly, that has low carbon infrastructure. It's really about financial mechanisms and the transfer of know-how. We must share the technology that we have here so that other countries can build low carbon economies. We must also help to finance that. The Kyoto Treaty provided for this to happen through the Clean Development Mechanism. We need to build on that to expand it considerably so that funds flow directly from all richer countries to the poorer countries. This is a global problem. We're all in it together. It's no good if the richer countries just do it on their own. We could be scuppered by what happens in the poorer countries. I want to see Britain in the forefront, at the very cutting edge of making sure that British consumers at home are more energy efficient. When they go to work, they make the low carbon travel choices. And every aspect of our daily lives, at home and at work, we should be saying, how can we help to reduce carbon emissions?
Early action will be cheaper and more cost-effective, but ultimately countries need to work together to stand any chance of tackling this global problem.